All right. So welcome all this evening. And let me, before I start to my slides, I think we have some visitors tonight. I know Scott has been a longtime friend and is visiting with us, or do we have some others visiting with us tonight? Mary, welcome this evening. Do we have you on? Well, we were asked, put it this way. If you're on our mailing list, great. If not, if you'll let us know, we'll add you to the mailing list.
Okay, I think I'm not on your mailing list.
Okay. Well, if you will let us
But
know.
she is on my forwarding list.
Oh, well, then
I
that's
wanted
it.
to try it out.
That's perfect. And if you decide you'd like to be on the mailing list, let us know and we'll put you on there.
Thank you.
Any other visitors? Well, I'm glad to see that we have some new faces here this evening. We have 20 people on Zoom and we have 8 here with an overlap of 4. So we're doing pretty well this evening so far. What we're going to do tonight is just have some announcements, and then Janie Light's going to talk about a tip she has about screenshots. And then Jim will talk mostly about the best practices for migrating from an old Mac to a new Mac. So our board, same board as you saw last month. One of these days,
bunch of rascals.
Say again.
Bunch of rascals.
So hopefully one day we'll actually all be in the same physical spot and can get a picture, but we're waiting on that. Maybe. Board meetings are held the first Wednesday afternoon of every month. If anyone has any interest in coming and joining us. Of course, if you come and join, you might be appointed to do something. So beware.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of being appointed to do things, these are our appointed positions for this year. There's a couple of folks that were left over from last year I haven't heard from yet. Let me know if you want to continue in that spot. Past meetings have been recorded. Since we started on Zoom, we've recorded every meeting. And we have quite a library now within our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and visit one of our older meetings or share it with someone, you can do that. As we've done at the beginning of the meeting, we have help desk type of questions answered both from those physically here at Pokey Joe's as well as online. As always, we have that 30 minutes of help desk time so we can try to answer questions. If something comes up that you want to ask our help desk during the other times of the year, post it on Slack and I'll get it to them, or send the email to president@capmac.org. And again, I will get that question to them. Our next coffee with CapMac is going to be on Thursday, the 27th of April at 11:30 a.m. It is already on the shared event calendars, so you can look for it there. As always, we're looking for tips from you all to share with everyone else. Just like Janie's going to be doing in a few minutes, if you have something that you find of interest that you think others might be interested in, volunteer to share it at the next meeting. Talking about May, and we'll get Nancy to say a few things here in a minute, but for May, we will only have the virtual general meeting. That's because they have a conflicting event here at Pokey Joe's that night. But that works out because we have the picnic on the 20th. And since we have those 2 events during May, I am not scheduling a coffee meeting during May. Now, one thing we do need from everyone is to find out who and how many are coming to the picnic. Please send an email to membership@capmac.org saying how many will attend in your party. You or members and relatives living with members are invited to attend. So please send that in. And Tom, do we have a drop date on that? No, just as soon as you can, certainly well before the 20th, but 15th or so, please let us know so we can order the appropriate amount of barbecue. Now, before we go to anything else, I'm going to get up and let Nancy come and talk.
I can come over there.
It's over here. You're good.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Before I get started, I wanted to tell Peter that we took a vote in here about your problem, and we suggest you find a teenager. Obviously, none of us know. Okay, the picnic is coming up. And as you know, we provide all the food. Tom's been taking care of that. And he's reserved a place. We're meeting at the same place that we've been able to meet before, the big recreation room at the Christian church. We'll put all that information when we send it out. We're going to have a couple of things for you. If you have something that you would like to recycle, if you will bring it, we will get it to a recycle space for you. And all of your wives will be happy. And the other thing is we're also going to, again, have a garage sale, for lack of a better term. If you have something that you want to sell or even give away to members, not recycle, bring those and we'll have a table set up for that as well. Just be sure and mark your prices. And then the last thing is we're going to have a trivia contest. So get ready.
And you all know with Nancy doing the trivia contest that there'll be many of us that don't know the answers.
But it sure is fun to guess. She usually had us do it as, as a team with, somebody. So that takes some of the pressure off.
I did get an email this week with a request for volunteers, and I put all this up. You can read it, but it's with No Ability, a nonprofit in Austin, and they're looking for some help doing some IT work, working with photographs and trying to categorize them. If anyone is interested, let me know and I can get you in touch. They also supplied a PDF with a more detailed description of what's needed, so I could share that with you, or you may simply go directly or email directly Emma Reeves if you are interested. But I told them I would pass this along because we do try to do some service to the community projects from time to time.
And they did help us redesign our website.
So yes, and so if you have any interest at all, let us know. If you may have mentioned or may have noticed in the email I sent out, I did have a little thing in there that says I put together a little newsletter, and there was a link to download the PDF if you were interested in it. I didn't put it in the email, but you could download it. So if that is something that, if anyone looked at it and it's something you would like to see more of in the future, let me know. Or if you have things you want to add to it, let me know. And we will see where it goes from there. Now, some things of interest, or at least things that I thought some of you might be interested in. I had a friend send me this image on the right, and it was what to do in Texas if you're broke so you can travel Europe. And so it's all the cities in Texas that have the same names as capitals in Europe. I did not know until I looked at this that there was a Dallas in Scotland.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was trying to figure out, okay, Dallas is on this map. Where is Dallas? And it's in Scotland. What was interesting is I threw all these cities into Apple Maps, and it turns out that if you really want to do this and you have 17 hours to burn, you can travel the capitals of Europe, and it only takes you about 1,028 miles.
Out of your way.
Never leave the state. So
Is there a high-speed train like there is in Europe?
Not exactly.
no, I suspect there's a lot of 2-lane roads. I think the 17 hours might be optimistic, to be honest.
Hey, I noticed that Ding Dong's not on here.
What is?
Ding Dong.
Ding dong.
Is that a
Ding dong,
capital in Europe?
Texas. There is a Ding Dong, Texas, right in the center of that map.
Well,
about
I
per-
mean, there's other cities that have the same names as cities of
Yeah.
Europe, like Odessa,
Oh,
but these are all capitals.
Mm,
And there's even a.
Oh, no, Dallas, Dallas
Just about just about
isn't
south of
in
Dallas.
Scotland. But yeah, I mean, if we went and searched, I think we could find a lot more to add to this list, and you'd be traveling for a lot more than 17 hours.
with a side trip to perdition.
Yeah, that'd be for number one.
So looking back a little bit in the past, March 31st of every year is World Backup Day. And as the name implies, the suggestion is that if you never do it at any other time, back up that one day, all your devices. So you at least have one backup. Now,
At least
certainly
once a-
that's not the recommendation,
I
but
know.
be cognizant of the fact that you need to back up your devices, not just your Mac or your PC if you've delved into the dark side, but your iPhone and your iPad as well. It makes a huge difference if they suddenly die. I speak from experience. And if you're looking for more information about that, Take Control Books has one of their publication is backing up your Mac. So it could give you additional ideas. And follows into this with the discounts for Apple user group members. Notice that the Take Control Books offers a 30% discount to any Apple user group member. So that means you can probably get that book for around $11. So that ends what I have to say this evening, which is miraculously short compared to the past couple of meetings. Before I go on, does anyone have anything to say before we start up a real technical program? The question was asking about someone was asking about the volunteer opportunity. I'll have to get that to you. I don't have it off the top of my head. No other questions, then I am going to let Jim stop sharing my slide deck, and we're going to set up for Janie to go share her tip.
I'm say when we started having meetings by Zoom, not just this meeting, but all meetings, I found the need, first thing I learned was on Zoom, if somebody posts something in chat, I could not copy it off my iPad. There's no option to print it, to save it or anything. So I said, well, I need to be able to, I saw the need. I felt like I need to figure out how to do a screenshot. Well, I looked it up, and of course on your phone, you can push two buttons at the same time and do a screenshot. On the iPad, you can do the same thing, but the buttons change whether you have a home screen, a home button, or not a home button. So I looked into it a little further, and I found the Assistive Touch. And with it, all I have to do a screenshot is push one little, I call it my magic button on my screen, and it's on every screen I'm on. So no matter where I am. So I'm going to step through this and show you how to do it. So first thing you do, go to settings. And then we're going to go down to accessibility. Everybody there? Okay, on the next screen, I'm going to go over here and hit touch. Jim's in my way there. Let me that. Okay, then on the very top, if you've never turned Assistive Touch on, whoops, you'll need to push that and then turn it on. And then you'll see this little button that showed up with black background and white. That's my magic button. Now, if I pushed it right now, you're going to see a menu comes up with 6 things on it. And that's what comes with your device if you've never done anything with it. Well, all I wanted was a screenshot, and you see there's no screenshot on here. So now what I'm going to do is customize the top level menu, and you'll see the same 6 things are on this screen that were on the previous menu. Well, I'm not interested. Jim, your picture keeps getting in my way. I don't want anything but the screenshot. So to get rid of what's on here already, you just push the minus button. Well, mine's not wanting to work very good. And you're going to get down to one button and you can't get rid of it. So right now it's showing Siri. Well, that's not what I wanted. So now I push the Siri button and go down and find screenshot. Select that. Now when I push the button, it's going to take a screenshot and you'll see it right down here. That's how easy it is to take a screenshot when you're doing something. Let me get back. I'm going to delete that right now. Anyway, if you look at this and you decide, well, I go back to top level, that you want some other things on it, then you can push the plus button and then the big plus button. Now I can go down and say, oh, I'd like to have Control Center and attached to my magic little button. So now when I push the screenshot, the button, I can go to Control Center or I can do a screenshot. So it's up to you to customize it any way you want. If you notice on the list, I'll do that one. There's a lot of things on here. So it's up to you to pick, and you can only have 8 things on here. Now my magic button, see if y'all can see, you can put it anywhere you want on the screen, except it has to be on the edges. It won't stay in the middle. But I know sometimes it'll get over here and I'll go, okay, I'm gonna do that. Oh, dadgummit, I just did a screenshot. That's not what I wanted to do. So sometimes it gets in your way, but it does fade out like it just did so that you can kind of see through and see what it's on top of. So it's not covering anything. And if it's in your way, you just move it a little bit. But I don't know how many times I'd be sitting with my sisters and all of a sudden they'd hear the shutter and they said, did you hit that button again? I said, sure did. And I use this a lot. Let me get back here. Like I figured out how to do this about 3 years ago. And then somebody asked me about, well, how do you do that? And it's like, oh, let me think about it. So what I did, I start from the beginning, take a screenshot of every screen I'm going to, and I'll stop and edit it to mark what option I picked, and then go all the way through. And then I take all those photos and put them in a folder named how to take a screenshot. And then when somebody sees me do it and said, well, how did you do that? Well, I look smarter if I can just pull those pictures up and say, this is what you got to do. Then let me go through this and figure out how to do it again. Anyway, any questions?
I mean, that is brilliant. And I mean, a very good presentation of it. I like the notion too of doing a screenshot of your various steps and then what you use to edit in order to highlight those sections or does it look highlighted when you do the screenshot?
Let me take a screenshot. I forget I have to, since I've got there. You just pull it up and it's a photo. And so you edit it like you would any other photo.
So you can circle it or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, like I said, I could pick a pen.
Yeah.
And just go, what I put on the tip page, I put a little box around everything.
Uh-huh.
Of course, that takes time, but if you're like right now, if you followed this on your phone or whatever, as you're backing out of it, you can take a screenshot and then go back and edit so that you would remember how to do it.
Remind everybody that your tip is on the website.
Can you repeat the question? Because we can't hear what the
Oh, he
Pokey Joe
said
people have.
He asked me to remind everybody that this tip is on the website.
And it's in the chat. I
Yes.
just put it in the
Robert
chat.
had put it in the chat.
That's pretty interesting I've always wanted a magic button.
Well, and I want to give y'all a homework assignment, if you don't mind. I haven't played with all the different things you can pick and put with Assistive Touch. So I'd like for somebody to go through and find something where it really helps them. And then they come back and give a presentation on that. So we share the information of what, you found out, because I saw some things that I hadn't noticed before that I'm not going to tell you about. but, because I haven't had time to play with it. But I just liked having just one button, no matter what device I was on, that I could push to take me a screenshot. And then it goes right in your photos, so it's pretty easy to find them. And then you can move them somewhere else if you want to. But I was just so happy when I found this. Any other questions? I don't know. I'm a Windows person, remember, Nancy? That's why I'm sitting here away from all them. I think somebody made a comment about a Windows person earlier.
Okay, well, I'll say. I just a few days ago, I got a new Macintosh. First new machine that I had bought and started using in 8 years. I had been using a 2012, MacBook Pro that came from auction in 2015. And but last year when I did my taxes, there was as I finished, there was a notice on TurboTax that the next year's version would no longer work in Catalina. But my old machine topped out at Catalina. So I was going to have to do something before doing my taxes this year. So last week I ordered a refurbed MacBook Air, which I'm presenting off of tonight. So, after using the same machine for 8 years, you had to, think a little bit about, how it's going to be able to transition to the new machine. But what I figured out the best thing to do would first prepare the existing computer, then prepare the new computer, then migrate all my data from the old machine to the new machine, then sit back and enjoy it, and still learning the differences between, Catalina and Ventura, which are considerable. First task really was work on the old computer to get it ready to transition to the new one. And the first thing to do is make sure that the drive on it is is healthy. So what I did is launched disk utility and ran disk first aid. And with the Apple filing system, the best thing is to select by the top level, either the drive itself or the container volume, and then run disk first aid on that, and it should go through and repair all the volumes. Getting it ready to to be a clean source. Then do a backup. Okay, let me try. Okay, let me see.
That one.
Okay, it's just switching very slowly.
Very slowly.
Hmm.
Okay. In any case, do a backup. My preference is carbon copy cloner, but other people like Super Duper or other tools. Main thing is to have a absolutely complete backup of your disk. But anyway, the next step. Okay, well, the slide still hasn't changed yet. No, what's on the TV screen here is directly connected to this computer. It's not going through the network, not going through Zoom. But anyway, whenever the next slide appears for y'all,
We're still on the backup, do a backup
Yeah.
screen. There we go. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
for some reason, when I do play, it doesn't,
Oh, you're a mind reader. You did that.
yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, the next step, clean house, just like you suggested. Get rid of all the old, but do the cleaning after doing the backup. So you have a backup in case you change your mind. It's something that Steve Jobs famously called cruft. Your downloads folder is probably full of junk, old software, obsolete software, stuff that you downloaded and never got around to reading. No telling what you're going to find there. There's probably a lot of old junk in the documents folder too. Give yourself a fresh start. You can always do more cleaning later on the new computer, when you've gotten through the process. Now, here's the fun part. Unpack your new computer and power it up. Now, Apple makes this easy. You follow the instructions on the screen. That'll take you through every step. You will be asked to set up a new administrator account, but this can be temporary because your existing accounts will be moved over, when you transfer your data. Now, next step is move your data. Launch Migration Assistant on both computers. That was my dope moment. I didn't launch Migration Assistant on my old computer, so the new computer didn't know what the heck to do. And in their on-screen instructions, they don't really, at least I didn't see them telling you to do that. But I looked at the radio buttons, and there was migrate from a Macintosh, migrate to a new computer, or migrate from a Windows computer. So I got, what the new machine has to be the to and the destination, and the old machine has to be the source. And if you can connect them to each other with a Thunderbolt cable, or if that's not available, an Ethernet cable. Wireless is very much slower. Thunderbolt is fastest, but in my case, the older machine and the newer machine use different connectors. Now, Apple does have a pricey adapter. This is it, from Amazon. I ended up using an Ethernet cable, and the data transferred to nearly a gigabit per second, which is basically the speed of the ports. So wireless is very much slower. And Migration Assistant is really, really smart. It will use the fastest path that it can. Launch Migration Assistant on both computers from the old computer to the new computer. You'll follow the on-screen instructions, start the transfer. It will take a while. You'll get a beer. You've earned it. Doing all that work. And then enjoy your new Macintosh. And you will, as tonight, we'll discover some surprises. When things don't necessarily work exactly as they should. It's one thing on the new machines, new generation of machines, I guess the new generation of OS, they take security a lot more seriously. And you'll find that it'll basically come and say, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to run that, run that program, et cetera? But anyway, that's what basically what I have to say.
Well, I'd add a couple of things. One is when you go in, what it does is when you actually connect them up, it'll go through a couple of handshake steps, and
Uh-huh.
it'll say, for example, if you have, as we do around the house here, we have several computers, and you have Migration Assistant running, from the old machine and then to the new machine, and it'll come up and it'll give you, I think it's a 6-digit number, and it'll say, do you see the same 6-digit number on the
Exactly.
other
Yes,
computer?
yes,
And it'll,
thank you for reminding me of that.
yeah, and it'll verify so that even, if it shows up on a computer, you want to transfer stuff, it shouldn't, but I mean,
Yeah,
they're trying to hammer it in that this is really the one you want the stuff to come from. The other thing too is it'll go and do an inventory of the stuff on the old computer. And this will take a while. It'll take maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and it will tell you how much space, like for example, and it has, I think, 4 or 5 categories. It has documents, applications, settings, and I think there's one other thing, I can't think what it is, but it'll go through and it'll, for example, on documents, it'll calculate, okay, on the old machine, it's got, make up a number, 300 gigabytes of documents, and it'll say, I've got 200 gigabytes of applications. And I'm not really sure, I've never run into a case like this, but if you have more stuff on your old computer than you have space on your new computer, I don't know what it does. I haven't seen that.
yeah.
And have you seen that?
And both of these machines have terabyte drives, so it really wasn't an issue.
Right, exactly. And that's what happens. I have a terabyte and my old machine had 512 gigs. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it comes up, but it,
I was certain that really wouldn't be running out of space.
yeah,
And as
but
I had gotten rid of maybe close to 100 gigs of junk anyway.
yeah. So that's the thing is when you go through now, this is another thing I haven't tried out, but I'm pretty sure what it does. It'll say, okay, user so-and-so, user has all these things and they have check boxes, and they'll say, do you want to move the applications? And there's a checkbox, and you check that if you want to move them. Do you want to move their applications? And you check that. In other words, it gives you a choice.
Yeah,
so
and
you can, and so they're
my goal was to move everything anyway, so I
agreed.
didn't really pay too much overly too much attention to that.
Yeah, but that's the thing is they give you a choice. And here's the deal is if you have multiple users, like if you have a computer where you have mom's account and dad's account and the kid's account, and the kid's gone off to college and the kid doesn't use the account anymore, then what you can do is you can say, I want to move mom's account and dad's account, but the kid's account, and you just leave that stuff unchecked. And that way it'll move over just the stuff that you want. Or it'll say one of those settings is literally settings. And it'll say, and that means like your network, your Apple ID and your network account and all the stuff like which printer you use and all that stuff. And you generally, when you move everything over, you move everything because you want to move your whole environment. And so you check all 4 boxes, but you have a choice, by user, you can select, what you want to move over.
I think, Migration Assistant is really one of the most, brilliant pieces of software that Apple's come out with. It works beautifully.
Oh, the wonderful thing about it, and I tell people this, I said, okay, so when you get down and you start doing this, and I walked a guy through it last week on FaceTime where he's aiming the phone at his screen, and I'm telling him, okay, do this now. And we did all this. He lives down in Houston. And I told him, when you get through, it's going to move your entire environment and your desktop pretty much. I don't know if it did his desktop image, but all of the icons on the desktop are exactly where they would be when, in other words, if from your old computer to your new computer. So, oh boy, it doesn't move and then say, you can't find the stuff that you had on your desktop, which mine's pretty messy. So, there's stuff on there. And
I did a lot of cleaning there.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's brilliant. I mean, it just moves everything over. And so when you get there, other than the changes in the system, which I was carping about earlier, my stuff is all there. It's brilliant. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I was just really amazed. The only thing, and it may be between, going, several iterations, between several iterations of the OS, several iterations of Safari, it did decide to rearrange my bookmarks, my Safari bookmarks. So it actually gives me an excuse to go back and do some cleaning there, because there's a lot of old junk there.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's a typical Macintosh kind of thing where it really does the right thing. But I think it really helps if you do some cleanup before you get started.
Oh yeah. Say I got rid of, I think, well over 100 gigs of junk.
Spring cleaning.
Yeah. And I still, actually, there's probably still a lot more that I could do, or, move off to, archive somewhere or something.
Yeah. Oh, and here's another one. Because I'm a Luddite, I was moving from a machine that was on 10.14, and the new machine was, what is it, 13.2 or something like that. Huge change. And when I moved, I knew I had a bunch of applications. Like I had an old copy of Microsoft Office that was from the Stone Ages and all this kind of stuff. And I knew that stuff was going to break, and they mark it. And so when you move all that stuff over, you have to go through and find the applications and get rid of them. And that's where that thing where you go and do about my Mac and then look in applications, and it gives you a list, and it tells you whether they're Intel based or universal, which means they're both Intel and Apple Silicon, or 32-bit, and they don't run anymore. And it's an alphabetical list, and you can go through and find them. And it also tells you where they're located, and you can chuck all that stuff out and make a list of the stuff you need to replace.
Actually, tonight, when I launched Zoom for the first time, since I've had the machine, it was a copy of Zoom that had been on the old machine. It said, you need to install Rosetta.
Yep.
Because it's it was an Intel
Ooh.
app, and it's running on an M2 now.
That's a really good point. So for you folks out there that are going to go, you get a nice shiny new Apple Silicon machine, whether it's a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, or I got a Mac Mini, and I guess the new iMacs that run on Apple Silicon. Early on, after you get this thing set up, like right after you get everything moved over, and you try to open an application, let's say it's an Intel-based application, Rosetta is a thing that translates it to allow it to run on Apple Silicon. It will come up and ask you, and I don't know how many times it does it, but the first time it'll come up and say, do you want to use Rosetta to allow your Intel apps to run? And you want to say yes, because again, I knew about this, and so I said yes from the get-go. I don't know what happens if you tell it no or cancel, and then later.
I won't launch the app.
Yeah, so when you see that, it's a good thing to do, and make sure you do it.
What actually, when it said, do you want to run Rosetta, it actually downloaded it.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, which means you need to be connected to the internet.
Yeah.
So good point.
When you're looking at that info screen, Peter, that you were talking about, where you can see whether it's Intel or what have you, or 32-bit, like a lot of Mac applications, if you will click on the headings above the column for where it has the type of system, it will sort it by that, so you don't have to go digging through it looking for it.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
You can do all sorts of sorts with that makes it easier to find that old stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, Mary Ward, were you holding up your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I know you made backups with one of the carbon copy things and with Time Machine, but are you going to be, if you've switched from Intel to one of the M1s or M2s, are you going to be able to use those, so let's say if you ever needed to go back to one of those things on the Time Machine? Because I thought you couldn't, thought you couldn't switch between the two.
That might be a project for the next day or two.
I've heard some nasty rumors, but they may just be that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need to wipe the Time Machine drive and start over. But as I say, I have a fresh clone backup. As I say, that's my strategy, is periodically. I'm not real conscientious. So about every 3 months, I'll do a carbon copy clone. But then I also have Time Machine running automatically, so it does like the backup every hour.
Isn't that a lot more difficult when you're using the M series?
But especially since I'm retired and not doing anything that's that important, I'm really kind of slacking off on being super conscientious about the backups.
You'll be sorry.
No, I'm still doing them, but I mean they're not just I'm not. There's nothing that's high dollar anymore.
Jim, I have a question. Jim.
Yes.
Jim, Tom here. I have a question. the carbon copy cloner backup that you made of your old machine before you migrated, can you boot that on your new machine?
Probably not.
Oh, that's a good point.
I've got my old machine too. It's not retired.
That's a really good point. There's a couple of things here. One, when you move off your old machine onto your new machine, you'll have a time machine volume, that is typically running all the time. And when you migrate that to your new M1 based or M2 based machine, it will ask, it'll say, oh, do you want to continue to use this time machine volume on your new computer and thereby preserve all of the old stuff that you have? And the answer to that, so you have a choice to make. You can say, yes,
okay,
I want to.
I haven't seen that yet.
Really? I think it'll do it. I've seen this dialogue where it comes up and it says, do you want to adopt, do you want the new machine to adopt all your old stuff? And I said, and actually my wife uses it all the time, and I do occasionally, I do it periodically, like every 2 weeks. And I saw this dialogue, and yes, I adopted it. If you tell it no, I'm not really sure if it creates I'm not sure how it treats that because I haven't done that.
Yeah. Okay, Heidi?
Heidi's got her hand up.
What is a long time? How long did it take to migrate?
I say I had about 600 gigs, and it took hour and a half. Maybe not quite, maybe not, less than 2 hours.
One of the interesting things I found about Time Machine on Ventura, just looking at some of the machines that work, is that with Time Machine, you can actually vary the increment of when it does the backup, where you couldn't always used to be an hour. You can actually change that to a day or something. There's some options on Time Machine that they've never been there before, except with third-party software.
Also, I've got got a lot of exploring left to do. I've literally had this machine out and running for about 4 days.
Yeah, there's another thing too. I'm kind of a Luddite, and I tend to keep both the old hardware and the new hardware around because there's things I can do. I have old 32-bit apps that I rely on, and so I have essentially two parallel systems. I have the old ones, which are just old systems, and so what I did was I kind of split. In other words, I have a set of carbon copy cloner drives. Either I got new ones or I recycled old ones. So in other words, I have 2 sets of backups to do now. Although on my old system, I don't really back those up. If I back those up once every month or two, they're static. They don't really do anything. So it's just a habit. But the new ones, so in other words, you may have to buy a couple of new drives to support the new machines going forward. So anyway, just something to think about.
Well, I've got one spinning drive that I use for the carbon copy clone drives. I got it divided into several partitions, and I just rotate through those. So I always have a couple of backups.
Yeah, then along those same lines, on your new machine with the Apple Silicon, what can you do in a way of actually booting something? Let's say you needed to run something in Mojave. Could you boot that on the new machine?
Probably not, because I don't
think so.
Or perish the
I
thought.
I don't think there's that much backwards compatibility. Of course, all the the data files will be
sure,
it will be compatible.
Yeah.
But
that's a really good point. Oh, this is something else. If you're a carbon copy clone fanatic, or well, not fanatic, but impresario, then on the old, like in 10.14 and I think up to 10.14, you could take a carbon copy clone volume and boot from it. Going forward with the newer systems, they had to modify its behavior. You can't do that anymore. In other words, if your Apple Silicon machine, if you will, blows up, in other words, something goes totally haywire, you go into the recovery volume and you reload the OS. And then at the end of the OS reloading, it'll come up and say, oh, do you want to recover or do you want to reload your user data? Do you have a time machine volume or some other copy of your data, like carbon copy, and then you can recover from that. In other words, it's a two-step process instead of just re-imaging the whole drive from a carbon copy volume, if you will. For example, anyway, that's how it works. And they're really explicit about that.
Yeah, I think perfectly content, in jumping to the new world of the Apple Silicon machine. I'm really, really impressed with this little guy. It's incredibly responsive.
Oh, what a boy!
I haven't
What
done
a
any kind of formal speed measurements, but it's just opening web pages is all just instantaneous.
Yeah.
But another thing too,
It won't boot in anything. It won't boot in anything.
the older machine is
Catalina.
only Wi-Fi 5. This is Wi-Fi 6, so it's wireless networking runs at this is faster, not faster than the internet coming in.
But one thing, that's what I found. My wife's got a time machine volume that she runs all the time. I don't. What I do is I have a periodic backup thing where I do carbon copy and time machine backups once every week or two. Sorry, and if you have a rotating hard drive that you use for time machine, then when you start the machine up, it'll have to wait around for that drive to spin up, and to some degree. And so as a result, I just have the SSD inside the computer running, and the bring up when it comes up, it's like when it comes up, it's just ready to go. It's, as you point out, it's lightning fast. I'm running on Google Fiber, and I've got everything's hardwired with Ethernet, and it's blazingly fast. It's just amazing. Whole different world.
I say the machine is also, very cool, nice and cool. Doesn't heat up the old Intel machine. It would, sitting in my lap, my lap would definitely get hot.
The funny thing is I was holding out, I looked at a Studio and I thought, well, that's too much machine for me. I just don't do anything to justify that. So when they came out with an M2 Pro Mac Mini, I got one of those. And frankly, I had previously I had an M1 Mini, one of the first ones. And as a user, I really can't tell that much difference. It just really, they're both so fast. It's just, the average human can't tell the difference. If I was doing like a film rendering or something like that, which I don't do, I might be able to see, the improvement in performance. But, I just thought, well, I'm going to get a sports car rather than regular Chevrolet, because what the heck, how often do I buy a new computer? And so I've had both, and they're both really
like
quick.
the M2 Air. I think the M2 Air is a really, really, really nice machine.
Oh,
and
I'm extremely pleased.
Yeah, they're amazing. Oh, and the other thing too, on laptops, the battery lasts forever. I mean, they just run for hours. It's terrific.
Okay, well, I think that's probably got that one about beaten to death. Oh yeah, John.
Any hope of running Windows operating system on the Mac?
I believe.
Please repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was whether you can run virtualization on them, and I believe Parallels is available now on the for the Apple Silicon machine. So again, after I retired, I kind of stopped running stopped needing to run Windows, anything Windows. So I haven't kept Parallels updated, and I still have on the old machine have a copy of Windows 7. And I did notice in the application folder in this machine it did have Parallels, and it had a little circle and slash through the through the file name. Because I say, again, I haven't updated, Parallels in like 8 years.
Yeah, this is one of those things where you go through. I found I use VLC all the time, Video LAN, was it Video LAN player or whatever. Yeah, and they have an Apple Silicon version, and also let's see, Oh, shoot, my mind's gone blank. But there are several apps that, if you use them all the time, you can go through and people are actually converting the code pretty readily. So it's really helpful to go through.
I've just had the machine for a few days, so I still need to, go through and get all the updating done.
Yeah.
But I say so far I'm extremely happy. And then I think tomorrow's project is going to be starting on taxes. Yeah. So the reason I bought the machine in the first place was to run TurboTax. And of course, since the new machines do not come with CD or DVD drives, you had to download even though I had the CD for the latest version of TurboTax, I had to download. But that actually didn't take very long at all.
Actually, that's one thing I tried is I have an old desktop drive that's hooked up with an adapter, and it works fine. I can rip.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean that
you can take a standalone drive and plug it in.
Yeah, they still work.
But nice thing that apparently the Intuit does, keep their download versions up to date, so didn't have to download any updates. Yeah, one with John.
Heidi has a question.
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to repeat it.
The question is, with the new Mac, go and access files on, say, an old hard drive.
Yep.
Mac that has want to transfer those files to use it. New Mac somewhere. In the past, there was some change in can't remember exactly what it's called. Some code in the operating system that literally would not let you use the files that you would use.
No, there's no difference in your documents, data files.
It actually had to do, if I remember right, it had to do with actually accessing hard drive because it's formatted to a different standard.
I am not aware of anything like that. I have not, had any problems in accessing, old, files, whether it's documents or data or music or photos or movies or anything like that. So there's going to be some differences in the applications. Yeah. Yes, Heidi.
Wi-Fi, you mentioned that the M2 silicon machine was Wi-Fi 6. Did you make any changes to your internet from the old during this process?
No, I had actually upgraded internet service from Spectrum a couple of months ago, but they did supply a Wi-Fi 6 wireless router, which the old laptop couldn't take advantage of. It was stuck on Wi-Fi 5, so it the internet responsiveness is noticeably quicker.
You said you upgraded from Spectrum, or you upgraded in Spectrum?
No, I have been using Spectrum for years, and then earlier in the year they started all their TV commercials. They're saying service starts at 300 megabits per second. I ran speed tests and I was getting 70.
So you made them deliver what you thought you were paying for.
Yeah, and I called them, and someone said, she told me, "Oh, you have a legacy account." Oh. Anyway, so they did trade out the hardware, and so it's a lot more satisfactory.
Did they charge you more?
No, they actually charge less.
That's a good upgrade.
Of course, in doing that, there were some TV channels that they dropped, but it's stuff I didn't watch anyway. So, $50 a month is $50 a month.
When I did that, I dropped all the TV channels and gained about $215 a month.
Well, oh,
Does Spectrum, have they switched over from cable to fiber yet?
It's a hybrid. Actually since the 1990s, it's been a hybrid system. It's still, copper to the house, but most of their backbone is fiber.
My neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. They're supposedly you can get up to, a gig from them. So I think they're supplying DOCSIS 3.1 modems. Anything else? We're, kind of early tonight, but.
I have a question. It's not specifically about migrating, but first of all, I want to thank Janie for her presentation and having the screenshots. And I want to thank whoever put it in the link so I could go and see it, because I've often kind of struggled to find out where all our resources are, and it's under a button on our website called resources. Go figure. So that's really handy. The one question I have is I'm in the habit of telling people about CapMac and just go to capmac.org, and there's no way for you to find out how to get into one of the meetings from the website. It says join us and it has the date, but it says details coming soon. But even if it said, if you want to be on the mailing list, send something to this number. I don't know how a person trying to find their way into the club could get in. Maybe I just didn't see it on the page, but I was poking around after I found what I needed.
Is how to set it up to make it easy for someone new to come into the meeting
And still stay secure.
and still stay secure. That's the problem, is you can't open it up to everything or to everyone. So how we find some happy medium.
So
as
I'm
you
just
say,
wondering, how hard is it? I mean, what's the jeopardy of having?
The simplest thing answer is they should join the mailing list, and there are links there. Finding them is not always easy, but a link to join our mailing list, and they get notified of all the meetings with the Zoom codes.
Okay. Oh, get details for our next general meeting. If you click that, it says come, it'll be on April 9th. Stay tuned for details. I still don't see where somebody would.
It's not there. It's elsewhere, and we've got to fix that. I agree. It's on the front page, and then it takes you to a page that explains what the next meeting is. But we need to add something, as you point out, on that page that says, if you want to come to the meeting, here's how you do it.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I mean, I'm not real sure what the security issues are perceived to be by having a link to a meeting, but making it easy.
You don't want to have a link to a meeting.
It's being Zoom bombed. You don't want to have your Zoom.
I've been in a meeting where that happened,
publicly.
so it was it was horrible.
So we just have to have a mechanism. The easiest way is to have them join our mailing list or email an address, and we'll send them a specific link. That way they can get in. But they'd have to take some step to get there.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have to have it to where they registered, where we all had to register to get in.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
that's
we
awkward.
had to do in another group because we got bombed. It was
that would
really
be
awful. They
unpleasant.
were noisy. They yelled a lot of curse words and racial slurs, and oh my God.
Well, that's why you have an administrator. In our case, Robert handles that for these meetings. And if someone were to do that, he just dump them immediately.
You dump them, but yeah, you don't want them in the first place.
And they can be, if I'm not mistaken, you can reject someone and make it permanent.
I think so.
But that's been a while since I've looked at that aspect of CapMac or Zoom rather.
Yeah, well, having a link where they could get on a mailing list to get
They could get on
details,
the mailing list,
that
that
would
would
be
be good.
helpful. And also there's the resource button so they can go back and see what they missed.
Well, and all the emails that I send out to you guys or everyone that are on the mailing list, there is a link in there that says, here is, if anyone you know wants to be added to our mailing list, click here and you can add yourself. It's a
That's nice.
forum
yeah.
that will let someone put their information directly into our MailChimp mailing list.
Okay, so if I just forward the meeting notice email, there is a way for them to add themselves there.
Correct.
Oh, that's good too, because I forwarded one to somebody today, so that's good.
There's a section down towards the bottom of the email that's says something about the mailing list. I can't remember now, but it says you want to add, someone, or do you want to be added to the mailing list? Click this link and it takes you to a forum that enables you to put all the information in directly to the MailChimp mailing list.
So I guess really my problem is I'm just kind of lazy and I have the meeting notice in my calendar and I'm used to going to the calendar and just clicking the link and going in. Instead, I have to search for the email, which is usually buried under a bunch of junk emails. And so it takes me a while to find it when I'm trying to log in. So that's the problem, because it comes out just like the day of or the day before, and I don't think to copy it and stick it in my calendar.
I've started sending out one email about 2 days before the meeting, and then there's a reminder the morning of.
Okay, well, that's helpful, and I
Oh, does the
appreciate. I
calendar
know there's a
not-
little overhead to do that, so thank you very much.
Does the calendar link not work anymore?
Well, not everyone subscribes to the calendar.
Oh,
But I do
Yeah.
subscribe, but it doesn't seem like I ever have the current link. So
Well,
maybe
it should, I only added about, well, when I add it to the mailing notices the same time I send out the email. Now you gotta make sure that you're refreshing periodically that subscription. When you
Oh,
sign up
okay.
to the to any subscription, one of the questions you're asked is how frequently should this subscription be refreshed? And I don't know what the default is. I have mine set to an hour.
so somehow I have two CapMac. I have a
There are
CapMac
two.
users and I have a CapMac.
Well, there were two because we set up one and it worked fine for a while. And then all of a sudden it stopped working in terms of being able to access it and add new entries. So it broke. Somehow within the Apple system, it broke. So I created a second one. That's the reason there's a notice at the bottom that says, if you are subscribed to the old calendar, switch to the new one.
Is there a way for me to know whether the old one, which is the old and which is the new, the CapMac users or the CapMac?
I can't tell you right now, but if you contact me, I'll let you know.
Okay, I could just
I have the
ditch them
different-
both and resubscribe, I guess.
I
Well,
have them
I
different
mean-
colors on my Mac, and so I can easily look at them and see when I'm in calendars. But that is a challenging issue, keeping them
Yeah.
separate.
Well, I do appreciate you doing it.
Ginger, I would recommend that you just kill them all and go to the latest message that came out, like the one that came out today. And that information is in there. And
Okay.
use that because that will be the newest, and get rid of the other ones. Make sure they're gone, trash them so that you
Okay.
can use.
Well, that yes, with regards to email, but we were talking here about entries in the shared calendar. And
Yeah,
that's
that's what I'm
different
talking
than
about.
the morning.
He's
calendar.
he was telling me to ditch my old calendar and
And
then
just start a new one.
from the email
Resubscribe.
you just sent out. That's what he was saying.
Just
Okay.
subscribe the old ones, unsubscribe the old ones, and throw them away so you don't use them again.
You can do that, certainly.
Use the newest one. I've got a friend I've been trying to impress that with, and he won't get rid of the old stuff, and then he can't get into the meeting because he uses the old ones.
Well, I have email problems anyway, saying current. So
Yeah, the best way to do this is to use the email, the links in the emails. That way you know you're getting the most current link.
Yeah.
This meeting is sort of evolved into more of one of our coffee with CapMac meetings with lots of questions and we wandering off into all sorts of subjects. So if you ever haven't been to a coffee with CapMac meeting, this is kind of the way it is. We just start off talking and wander around from subject to subject.
Although, except we had 2 excellent presentations this time
Well,
that were
is true.
planned.
Oh,
And we
shoot, I
recorded.
missed it. Oh, well. Oh, you mean you're talking about this meeting? Yeah, they were
Yeah.
really good. You guys were good.